I always like to describe Peter to people that don't know him as the sort of father of the internet in Europe, because without doubt he's done more than any other person in Europe to actually get it not just in the UK but across the European community and more recently into things like the old Soviet republics.
We were part of the first development testing of TCP/IP. They had to have independent implementations. The first 3 independent implementations was from this junior assistant professor at Stanford called Vint Cerf, Ray Tomlinson at BBN, and us. So we were in the internet game from the beginning. And in fact, if you look at the Bill Gates building, that's commemorated there at Stanford.
So Peter arrived back from the US, where he'd been working with a bunch of people around Stanford University and UCLA, and in the interim he'd also been working with GE on satellite systems. What he brought back was the kind of buzz that was going around of designing a very, very early internet, and we're talking in the mid-1970s.
The idea that the computer would be a medium for communities to get together, communities of scientists and communities in other fields, was quite slow for people to appreciate.
At first, there was almost no support at all on the UK side. The only one was from the Post Office, and only for 1 year. I wrote to the Chief Scientist of the Ministry of Defence, who I knew well, that I thought it might endanger collaboration on defence between the UK and the US. And he sent the Chief of Guided Missiles over to talk to me. And the result of that was a contract from MOD to do things to do with computer security, connecting the Defence Scientific Network, and protocols. The only trouble was, when we discussed that in detail later, lower down, there was no Defence Scientific Network, it was all on paper.
Peter's contribution was essentially concerned with bringing people into the computer game, not simply as code writers or programmers, but using the computer systems as an essential part of living a scientific life.
He is credited with helping the Queen send her first email from the very famous Royal Signals Research Establishment, RSRE in Malvern, in 1976, where he physically helped her set up her username as HME2, Her Majesty Elizabeth II.
We were also part of the first live, very substantial demonstration in which one went from Royal Radar Establishment in Malvern through UCL by satellite and satnet in fact to the US, through the ARPANET to SRI, by packet radio to a truck going across the Bay Bridge.
The interconnection techniques were all about how do you make all these systems talk to each other in whatever way necessary. But the real value is in actually building systems and trying stuff out. So it's empirical research. That you build a system, you fix the bugs, and you make it, you improve it.
In doing that sort of thing, we uncovered quite a lot of problems with the protocols, which would not have been discovered in the US, because delays were different, bandwidths were different, and it made the whole thing somewhat more rugged as a result.
What I recall is linkage that went to Sweden and then into Norway from Sweden, so to connect to the Norwegian activities up there that involved DARPA. And from Norway, there was an agreement with, I guess, maybe the British Post Office or maybe the Ministry of Defence. They funded the link from Norway down to UK.
It's not the sort of thing that a single breakthrough, as many of your Marconi Prize winners have. It was an ongoing, steady, important adjunct to the internationalization.
The reason I think Peter deserves the Marconi Award is Peter was a combination of salesman, operator. He managed a technical group at UCLA. And I think more than anything else, it was this combination of skills that allowed him to navigate a very difficult, I would say, social and political terrain in Europe that enabled networking to really take hold.
I'd had links with Cisco from the time when it was founded, because I knew the first president well from his Stanford days, Len Bosak. And I persuaded the person in charge of consultants in Cisco to fund a router, switch, and web cache for each of the republics of who are going to be part of the Silk Network. So we had the international communications from the satellite communications and everything that needed, and the routers, switches, and web cache for all of Central Asia and the Caucasus.
But Peter had so many other things going on that we never knew about. His involvement in the standards process in the UK. He's gotten very interested in the Internet of Things in recent years. And he has made many forays into other countries to try and help them understand about the Internet and how the Internet of Things might evolve.
He was instrumental in most of the major European projects involving the internet. His ability to actually liaise with government, both in the UK and the European Union, was really amazing, and that's why he got things done.